Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys for Friday, November 23rd. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Hope everybody in the United States that tunes into this show had a very good Thanksgiving on Thursday. Glad you're with us. Andrew McGinnis will be joining me momentarily. He will be on the show, just a matter of moments. Unfortunately, the two Americans, oddly enough, they're not going to be on the show. Alex B. Smith, an emergency came up. Friend of his got ill and had to, I don't know, had to tend to it during the overnight hours. Maybe he had too much turkey. I don't know. And Jimmy Murphy's out of town, and he was trying to get some reception and some Wi-Fi signal to join the show, but it was just not, the connection was just too spotty. He couldn't do it. He tried. Good job by Jimmy to attempt it at least, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to join us. So it'll be Andrew and I today breaking through the card. So yeah, maybe a little too much Thanksgiving festivities in Turkey for Alex and Jimmy, our two American friends that are part of this show on a regular basis. But that's okay. We carry on and we're ready to get this show going on a Friday. As we've got a massive card. We've got 15 games to break down. And here's Andrew McGinnis at a perfect time as we're just about ready to get this show on the road. Andrew, how are you?
Hey, morning, Ian. Yeah, it's a massive slate to say the least, and it's what happens when you get one day off with no games. The next following day is going to be a loaded card. So a lot of games to go over. We'll try and pick our spots here and stay lower volume, but gotta say, there's a lot of things I like here, Ian.
Yeah, it's always a big card to break down. A lot of interesting games, as always, and this is no exception, without a doubt. We've got we'll start right at the top. We've got a bunch of afternoon games today. We've got six, actually seven if you include Calgary Vegas, because that is a afternoon start, I guess you could say, for the folks locally there in Las Vegas. 3 p.m. local start there in that game. So lots of afternoon action all the way into the late night hours. This is an all day, all night hockey bonanza if you like NHL action. So let's start with a national TV game, 105 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, puck drop. NBC will have this game on. It's the New York Rangers taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia about minus 150 in this game. The total 6 shaded to the over. We've got the Philadelphia Flyers, to be honest with you, continue to struggle off a loss to the Buffalo Sabres. Keeping the puck out of their net's an issue. Goaltending injuries are an issue without Brian Elliott, without Michael Neuwirth. So basically you're rolling out Alex Lyon on a nightly basis at this point in time, and hoping for the best. And it was not a great performance the other night by Alex Lyon. The Buffalo Sabres, who are absolutely red hot right now, they can't be stopped at this point in time, seemingly take care of business against the Philadelphia Flyers with a very nice win. Calvin Pickard's the other goalie that Philadelphia's had, so interesting to see where they go. I mean, you've got two guys that you're going to have to rely on, Lyon and Pickard right now, if you're Dave Haxtell, because that's what you're down to. The Flyers definitely going to have to they're going to have to, at least at some point, I don't know when it's going to be, but at some point they're going to have to start playing some better defensive hockey in front of these two goalies, at least give them a better chance. I know the goaltending from Lyon was a little, spotty. I think he could have been better. There's a couple saves I think he could have made that he did not. But still, the defensive play's got to be better than it has been, without a doubt. The New York Rangers, on the other hand, continue to get the job done. They're playing really good hockey. Let's give them credit. I mean, I thought the New York Rangers would be a down team this year, bet against team. But boy, they've played some good hockey. They're rattling off some solid wins, beating Florida, beating Dallas on Monday night, beating up on the New York Islanders in a big win the other night. So it's a team playing well, team scoring goals without Zuccarello too, without a couple key guys in the line. Buchnevich has been out for a while. They've still been able to score goals. Henrik Lundqvist had a very, very good season. That's really good to see. We know it was a little rough on him last year. He didn't play well. There was even talk that he had completely lost it as a #1 goalie, but he's had a really, really good season in net for the Rangers. And hell, even the guy we ripped apart for a terrible first start of the season, Georgiev, came in there, played really well for the New York Rangers in that last game against the Islanders. So lots of things going for I'm awfully, awfully tempted to take the plus price here on the Rangers. I really am. They're playing good. Philly back home off a loss to Buffalo. They're used to playing these early games in Philly. I don't think they do too well in them. So I'm still going to take a chance here with the Rangers. I just think they got a little more confidence. It does concern me that they're not as good on the road as they are at home. They've been absolutely crushing it, New York, at Madison Square Garden. Not been quite as good for them on the road. I'm still going to take a chance. Again, we're talking about a Philly team that is really, really difficult to trust right now. And I know they got JVR back. That helps. But it's still defensive hockey and goaltending. at a price range here, -150, -155, that I just really don't trust them. So with such shakiness with both their defense and their goaltending at this point in time. So I'm going to take a chance here. Rangers are as high as +135 right now. That's the side I'm going to look at there in that game. And this is one of Andrew's games, his first game on the card, Rangers and Flyers. Andrew, what do you like here?
Yeah, I think, Ian, it's notable to mention. I think we can tip our hats. Both you and I believe one of the other guys had the under in that game with the Isles and the Rangers. And I mean, a 5-0 win for this Rangers team, man. I mean, I'm happy to see that under cash, but I didn't think it'd be a dominant victory like that. I mean, like you mentioned, coming into this season, I thought this New York Rangers team would be a massive bet against team. I thought they'd be, I talked about it at the beginning of the season as one of my bet against teams, one of the teams I think will be lower. I thought that Lundqvist would have really fall off, but I got to say, man, his shoulders must be getting sore from carrying this team because he's still looking great in great solid form. So he's looking great. And you know what? I'm going to look at this one. And I'm really going against the grain here. I'm going, some people are trend bettors, Ian. This one's the exact opposite here because, 15 of the last 22 games for Philadelphia has gone over the total. 4 of the last 5 when playing in New York. You can go down the list, but I'm going to go under the total in this one. It's an afternoon game here. I think, like you mentioned, there's been some goaltending questions with Philadelphia, and someone has to step up. It has to be answered here. I've had Philadelphia circled as an over team at the start of the year, but as things have drifted along, and when a team, in my opinion, is struggling to have any kind of consistency, and that's always the word that I use, but you look in their last 2 games. I mean, 6-5 loss to Tampa, and then a 5-2 loss to Buffalo. I mean, clearly these kind of style games are not meant for you right now. I mean, that's what you have to really tell yourself. So you got to buckle down defensively. I mean, your coach isn't going in there and telling you, all right, guys, good effort, but this time put up 7 goals and maybe you'll win. It's going to be have that really good start, buckle down defensively, and play some sharp hockey. So, I think that it says every website I look at says that Picker is going to get the start, but it's unconfirmed, and we know Lundqvist is in there. So, I mean, really same thing with this New York team. Defense is the biggest thing right now. Somehow they're not really struggling to find the back of the net. The biggest thing for them right now is protecting their own end. So, look, I think maybe an under in the first period, but an overall, I'll take that 6 number. I'll be glad to take it. Afternoon game, first game on the card of the day. I think both teams, they know their focus has to be defense before anything. So which is why I'll go with the under 6. It's at about even money now.
Yeah, all right, under 6. Yeah, I mean, the Rangers are definitely, I look at them more a little bit, especially right now, more of an under team. They're keeping the puck out of the net. They allowed 2 goals, 1 goal, and none in the last 3 games. So they're bringing it defensively. Now can the Flyers, I should say, join the party? Yeah. They're the team that needs to join the defensive party, and they keep the puck out of their net parade. So we'll see if that happens today. Islanders, New Jersey, next game, New Jersey -160. The total 6 in this game. I'm going to keep it brief. Not much opinion, to be honest, either way, side or total. New Jersey kind of righted the ship. I give them credit. They had a terrible road trip, but since then they've played better. They beat Montreal the other night, a nice 5-2 win over the Habs. And they played good at home this year. They've been a very, very good home team, the New Jersey Devils. Not really in any rush to go against them here. The Islanders are off that, as we just mentioned, shellacking at the hands of the New York Rangers. It was not a great night for them in net. This is another game, early start. Islanders played poor defensively, 5 goals allowed, maybe an under worth a look here too. I mean, New Jersey, I'm more adept to take New Jersey games under when it's a 5.5, or over, I should say, when it's a 5.5. But when you get up to 6 with New Jersey, Keith Kincaid's still playing very, very well in net for the Devils. I think the Islanders come with a concerted effort to maybe play better defensively. So maybe a small bet under, actually, in this game. I thought I wouldn't have anything. I've maybe talked myself into under 6 here for something small in this game. I don't love it by any stretch because, New Jersey is firing away pretty good at the offensive end right now. But I think under 6 might be worth a look here. I think Islanders, after that loss, cleaning things up. New Jersey is playing better defensively, particularly at home. Kincaid's been good at home. Team overall has been good at home. Nothing on the side. A small play toward the under, though, for me. Yeah, go ahead.
The line's just really weird again. I mean, -155. I mean, certain different spots here that you're getting with New Jersey. That's what really the biggest worry is for me, is that should this team, I like New Jersey here, but how much do I really like them is the problem against this Islanders team, because the fact that, we're getting these odds just kind of scare me away from a side.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, New Jersey, I'm not interested in them in this price range. Although, again, they got Nico Hischier back, and what's he do? He scores in his first game back the other night against Montreal. Taylor Hall was phenomenal in that game. You got those two guys on the ice, you're a much better hockey team, and saw that with the Devils the other night. Montreal Buffalo. Really interesting game. Another afternoon game this afternoon on this Friday slate. Buffalo laying minus 135. The total 6 shaded to the under. I've been on Buffalo a bunch as of late. I'm mad that I only bet them very, very small the other night against Philly. I was worried it may be a letdown spot, and sure enough, they just jump on Philly right off the get-go and go up 3-0 in that game after the first period. They're just an absolutely red-hot hockey team. I have no interest, none, zero. Betting against them right now. They're feeling it. They're playing great hockey at this point in time. Eichel has been great. Jeff Skinner, I mean, someone's got to get a fire hydrant out. Put this guy out. He's too hot right now. He's been absolutely sensational for the Buffalo Sabres. Another offensive another goal last game against Philadelphia. He continues to just absolutely rip it up, tear it up. They're getting their secondary scoring chipping in. Defensively, they're playing good. Carter Hutton is really, really, really the last week or so been good in net for the Buffalo Sabres as well. Everything's clicking for this team. They have confidence when they're down in a game, and they showed that against Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and Winnipeg, the 3 wins they got there. They're down in a hockey game. They can come back and win. They have belief. They're never out of a game. This is a dangerous team feeling their oats, I guess you could say right now. There's going to be at some point a bump in the road. No streak goes on forever. But until I see a bump in that road, I'm not going to go against Buffalo. And you look at Montreal, they're sort of cooling off just a little bit. It's been a little bit more of a rougher week for them. When you look at the results, they lost to Edmonton. They did beat Calgary, did beat Vancouver, but come back from that. They end up losing the other night against the New Jersey Devils. It's really that win-loss kind of pattern that's going on here with the Montreal Canadiens. Usually they're very good off a loss. That is a little bit of a concern for me laying the $1.35 here. And again, the prices on Buffalo are rising. So if I didn't bet them at minus 110 the other night against Philadelphia, I'm not going to be betting them today at minus 135 against Montreal, an even higher price. Although I'm not in any interest, I have no interest at all fading Buffalo at this point in time either. So I'm not involved from a side perspective. Totals wise, it's the defense and Hutton are playing good, but this team's scoring goals in bunches. So it's like a push and pull kind of thing going on with the total. I could see it going over, could also see it staying under. So I'd still probably bet it over before under because Buffalo's been so good offensively, but just a small lean there, if anything. Again, lots of games on the card. Don't have to bet everyone. This one is just one where I have just some very, very slight leans, nothing really all that substantial. But Andrew does. He wants to talk Habs and Sabres. Andrew, what do you like in this game here?
Yeah, well, the odds makers are finally kind of awakened, really, and put that 6 number up as a total for this Montreal team. And, I think we've seen it a few times this year, but we've seen a lot of 5.5s that, in my opinion, shouldn't really be there. I mean, again, this is a Habs team I've been talking about that's actually a relatively pretty big over team right now, and I don't think it's been really talked about enough. I mean, 7 of their last 9 overall and 4 of the last 6 on the road gone over the total. And I think that, even when they're not succeeding and winning in games, they're also, dropping a lot. Like their loss to Edmonton, I believe 6-2. So you look at this team now and they're starting to struggle because they're finding themselves, they used to be that team where it was lower scoring wins, Carey Price keeping you in it, a last couple minutes goal to win the game for you. Now they're kind of playing in that chase kind of style game where it's very competitive from the get-go, a lot of speed, a lot of back and forth action. And it's interesting because you used to mention, and I learned this from you, Ian, about how much of a defensive coach that Claude Julien really is. And now, he's saying now, like, oh, look, I can adjust. He's proved that he can adjust. He has 4 lines that roll. They're a very up and down team. And you've got guys on each line now that can really make an immediate impact on this team. And it's nice to see Jonathan Drouin finally getting involved and almost just not being too fancy. I always mention that about him, but it seems like he's just being too particular. Coming into this game, like you mentioned, I mean, I think we can all agree with what you're saying about how hot Buffalo is right now, but not only just that, but how hot they've been when they've been massive underdogs. But now the question is, can they cover this, and can they come in with a great performance when they're laying this heavy of favorites? And I think obviously teams don't really care about that, and they don't know about the betting themselves. But from our perspective, it's always, a little bit nicer taking a team like Buffalo when you're getting plus 150 versus, $1.35. So I think that this Montreal team's had a little bit of a rivalry, I feel like, with this Buffalo team throughout the year so far. It's been some back and forth matches, and for me, to be honest, I'm going to lean for Montreal, but I'm going to head over and take the over once again in this one. I think Montreal has been a team I've cashed quite a few over tickets with, and whether anyone wants to believe me or not, you go down this lineup here. You got Kotkaniemi, who's starting to lighten things up a little bit. Lehkonen down there in the third line. You got Max Domi, Drouin, great chemistry. Deneau, Gallagher. Gallagher is a guy who, remember, was never a goal scorer, was never a guy you can count on a nightly basis to put that puck in the net. Now he kind of has that role. So I think that this one, I would look at, honestly, my stronger play would be the first period over 1.5, because I think it's a possibility this one could start heavier and then sort of slowly become a goaltending battle and more defensive. But I think this one breaks open in the first period. These two teams mean business. And like you said, who's the mess with Buffalo right now as far as their scoring? So give me the total in this one, first period over, and honestly, a lean to the full game as well.
Lean to the full game, but you definitely like the first period better in this one, over 1.5 goals. And I do remember Montreal Buffalo playing twice this season. I believe first period overs cashed in both of those games. I know the last one did, because that last one in Montreal was 6-5, and it was like 3-3 after the first period or something like that. It was an absolute explosion on the scoreboard in the first period of that last game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres. So Andrew liking the first period over there does make sense. You could get a fast start offensively. Winnipeg, Minnesota minus 120, minus 125, 6 the total, shaded to the under in this game. Not really going to overcomplicate this. You've got a quality team in the Winnipeg Jets. Off a loss where they really just got off to a brutal start against Calgary. They were behind, 4-5-0 in that game. They actually came back, made it respectable, ended up losing 6-3 in the end, but they were already down far too many goals in order to come back in that game. It was a poor performance. The team not really all that happy about the way they started in that game. The Jets said their opening period was probably embarrassing, is what Patrick Laine said about that first period against Calgary. Paul Maurice said it was probably our worst period of the entire season. So, Winnipeg's one of those teams. I like them in these spots. They're off a loss, off a bad performance. They're 6-2 in 8 games off a loss this season. Minnesota, I'm telling you what, I know they got to win the other night against Ottawa 6-4, but they did everything they did. It's like, we don't want this game, Ottawa. Here, go ahead, you take it. That's basically what Minnesota said in the third period. Why do we want the 2 points? But they rescued it late. Eric Stahl, they blew a 4-1 lead, 4-4 that game ended, 5-4, 6-4 is the final score. They got an empty net goal. Minnesota was not happy with their third period performance in that game. But prior to that, Minnesota had lost 3 out of 4. Their only win was against Vancouver in a fatigue, jet lag, travel weary spot where Vancouver was at the end of the road trip. Other than that, we saw Minnesota lose 5-2 at home to Washington, lose 3-2 at home to Buffalo, somehow lose 3-1 on the road against Chicago, who have really, really struggled. Give me Winnipeg here at a plus price. I think we're going to get a situation where the Jets come in here hungry, motivated, bad performance against Calgary. I still think they're the better of these two teams. Okay, it's the first game between these two teams since the playoffs last year. Playoff revenge does not mean a damn thing to me. I don't handicap based on playoff revenge. I never will handicap games solely based on, team in playoff revenge mode. Winnipeg was far superior to Minnesota. That's why they won in 5 games last year in that first round playoff series. And I still think they're superior to Minnesota. So I'm going to look at Winnipeg here. A very good situation for them. Plus 105, very nice price. Plus 108 actually at Heritage Sports. Winnipeg Jets in bounce back mode. I think they get the job done against Minnesota. We've got Detroit, Washington. Next game up. No line here on this one. Of course, we've got lots of moving parts here with both of these hockey teams heading into this game. Detroit, I'm telling you what, overtime win against Boston. Okay, we talked about it on Wednesday's show. Boston battling injuries on the blue line. It's a very depleted group without a doubt. Tons of injuries on the blue line. Patrice Bergeron out. I know that definitely impacted Detroit there a little bit getting that win, but still very good performance from them. No question about that. For Washington, they need some of their forwards back. We're talking about TJ Oshie. could be missing this game due to a head injury, and Evgeny Kuznetsov is also going to miss another game, downgraded to doubtful here against Detroit. So there's a couple key cogs up front that will not be in there for this Washington Capitals team. They still managed to overcome it, still managed to get a win their last time out, but still some key people out of this lineup from a forward perspective. So we'll see how they handle it. Detroit, can they keep it going here? I know one thing: Detroit has given Washington some battles in recent meetings. If you look at it, recent series history, it's been pretty tight between these two teams, and I'm interested to see where this price comes out here. I mean, for Washington, they've not had really the start to the season they hoped for. They're only 11-10, one game above 500, sort of going through that post-Stanley Cup hangover, and it's really still taken a hold of them. I mean, we're talking about a team that 2 months into the season, they really still haven't gone on any sort of big-time streak. They've shown signs of it the last three, beating Colorado, Montreal, and Chicago, but dubious spot. And I'm telling you what, with this Detroit team, at some point we got to give them some acknowledgement. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They've played good. They're finally healthy up front. They only have Jonathan Ericsson now out on the blue line after dealing with a ton of injuries there early in the season. I'm looking back at the recent meetings. They're 2-2, these two teams head-to-head the last four. Detroit 3-2 in a shootout. Washington 4-3 in overtime. Detroit 5-4 in overtime. And Washington last year in Detroit 1-0, 1-goal games. I mean, Detroit's been right there with Washington in 4 straight meetings. This could be a sneaky live underdog here, worth a shot. I don't know if I'd say I love them, but with Washington battling injuries, Detroit playing well, Detroit playing with some confidence. Washington's probably going to command a big price as a home favorite here in this game. I'd be more than happy to take a little shot here with the Detroit Red Wings. They've played Washington tough 4 straight times, playing good hockey right now. I know Washington's won 3 straight, but still a little banged up on the forwards, with their forwards, with Oshie and Kuznetsov both likely to miss this game. So I'm going to look at Detroit. We'll see where this price comes out. I think they're going to be worth a little plus price, a flyer here, catching a healthy price as an underdog. I would say they're probably going to be, plus 170, plus 180. I could see Washington being minus 190 or so in this game. And you're going to get a good price with Detroit. So I think worth a small shot. I think this could be your big underdog of the day in terms of a big underdog that could be live on the card. I don't know if it's some of the other ones. I don't know if it's Ottawa. I don't know if it's Vancouver. But I think this Detroit team might be live in this big dog range. We've got Edmonton, Anaheim next up. Edmonton, minus 115 road favorites here. The total 5.5 across the board. I cashed with Edmonton the other night against San Jose. I took them. Again, there was not much to like with this team, 1-7 in their last 8 games. But the thing that comforted me about taking Edmonton against San Jose is because I figured you're going to get that uptick. You've got a Connor McDavid on the team, arguably the best player in the NHL. He's going to bring it. He sure did. He was fantastic. Draisaitl was. Nugent Hopkins was. Again, not much from the secondary guys, but, the big guys stepped up for Edmonton. There was an uptick in energy. They really played hard. That's what I wanted to see. They played hard in Ken Hitchcock's first game behind the bench after they fired Todd McClellan. And maybe this team can get on a run. Maybe. That's what I'm saying. Maybe they can go on a little bit of a run here. Mikko Koskinen was given the net by Hitchcock. He's going to be in net likely again today. It looks like Edmonton's going in that direction. Why not? Talbot was not playing well the last few games anyway. Koskinen got you a win. Made some big saves in the third period when that game was tied and hanging in the balance. No problem with sticking with him. Let's not forget, Ken Hitchcock's done this before. All right, this is not something that's new to him. This is not something that's unfamiliar to him. Taking over a team mid-season after a coach gets fired. He did it in Columbus in 2006, 2007, and he got that team to play better in the first month that he was there. He did it in St. Louis a few years ago, took over from Davis Payne. All the Blues did was go 7-1-2 in the first 10 games with Ken Hitchcock behind the bench. He has a track record of coming in here, not panicking, finding out the problems, diagnosing what's wrong with the team, and getting the team at least in the short term to fix it. Now, they still gave up too many quality chances and shots, I think, against San Jose, but I think that's going to be something that you see Edmonton really work on. Hitchcock is a guy that if you don't play defense, he's going to have a problem with you. That's all there is to it. It's a question of, do you get McDavid? Do you get Nuge? Do you get Draisaitl? Do you get these big guys buying into that defensive side of the puck? I think in time it happens. You like the uptick in energy. effort, intensity from Edmonton in the win against San Jose. And I think it could carry over at least to this game, if not longer. I'm going to be on Edmonton here, minus 150. I got no problem fading Anaheim. That's for damn sure. Nothing about this team impresses me. Lucky as all get out to hang on by their fingernails to beat a struggling Vancouver team the other night, 4-3. It's still a team that's losing to Colorado, losing to Toronto, losing to every decent team pretty much they play right now. If John Gibson doesn't stand on his head, Anaheim doesn't win. That's all there is to it right now. If he doesn't play fantastic in net, Anaheim's not winning hockey games right now. Is Edmonton concerns about them still? Yes, but I like that they showed you something. They showed you some guts. They showed you some heart. They showed you an uptick in energy, intensity, and coming back from an early deficit against San Jose to win that game. That's a positive sign in Hitch's first game under the bench. And again, this guy went 7-1-2. First 10 games that he took over the St. Louis Blues coaching job when Payne got fired mid-season a few years ago. Maybe, just maybe, this Edmonton team has a run in them. I'll ride them at least one more time here today, laying the buck 15 with them on the road. Andrew's also interested in this game, Oilers and Ducks this afternoon. Andrew, what do you see here?
Yeah, and so one thing that I really, really include in my handicapping is, what the media is saying as far as coaches' interviews, player interviews, and what all the speculation is involving the locker room chemistry and stuff like that. I really, really make that an important impact when I'm, making my decision on my games I'll select. And I took the time to watch several interviews with Hitchcock, and two of the things really stuck out to me. And I'm assuming you probably heard these same things too, Ian. One of them was really important. It was based on just strictly defense. Because you look at that game against San Jose, sure, it's a great comeback. Sure, it's a great performance from them to be able to come back in that third and put up a good performance and win by that one goal. It's a good character win. But when it comes down to it, their defense still wasn't there. So, Hitchcock was asked, if you think that guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, those guys that are big names, do they have to step up defensively as well? And he had the most blank look on his face that you'd ever see, thinking, of course, everybody has to play defense. It's everyone's job to be an, impactful player on both ends of the ice. And to me, it's a very simple thing, but it's important because he was, dead serious when he said that. And he made it very, very sure that, all these players, no matter who you are, you're not on the ice to score. Your first job is to take care of the puck in your own end. So that was important to me because I feel like this Edmonton team, their identity has always been to just be so speedy and so fast, so up and down, that it's almost like they're a little bit reckless. The second thing that I found very interesting was that Ken Hitchcock said that he really wants to get the puck in the middle of the ice more. He wants to make that ice a little bit smaller, kind of keep the wings a little bit tighter to the inside and get the puck in the hand of Nugent Hopkins more, on the stick of McDavid more. And that sounds funny to say. I mean, realistically, how often do we really see McDavid with the puck? Quite often. But they're saying he want to get that puck, behind the net in the offensive zone. He wants to see the guys carrying the puck in a little bit more. So to me, it just seems like he's stepping in right now, Ian. Like you're saying, I'm kind of promoting what you're saying. He's making that immediate impact. And for me, it's kind of been a disgrace over the past year and a half. I'm not going to sit here and rant about this Edmonton team. We know what they've been like, but the fact is they have to step things up defensively as well. I mean, we can talk about it all day, but the fact that Adam Larson came over for a trade with Hall, or for Hall, he's got to be that impactful guy. He's got to make an immediate, a hit or a defensive play every single game to prove his worth on that blue line. So to me, I'm going to take Edmonton here. Like you said, I mean, you're kind of laughing when you said it, and I agree with you. I mean, who you really worried about on this Anaheim team to make an impact every night? This is a team that lost 5-0 to a Vegas Golden Knights team. And this Vegas team struggles to score consistently. They lost to Colorado Maple Leafs pretty easily. So I'm going to look at this Edmonton team to keep things going, especially when you're still fresh after that new hiring of your head coach. You're still being evaluated, so it's still an important game.
Yeah, and you get an absolute rush of, confidence. It's a win that snapped a bad skid for the Edmonton Oilers. The coach is there. It just, everybody's got a little bit more, everyone's a little more excited. That's the way it is usually when a coach comes in and there's success right away with that new head coach. And I think we've got the chance to see that for sure continue here with this Edmonton team. And again, if they're playing Nashville today, or if they're playing an absolute powerhouse, maybe I'm a little bit more concerned taking Edmonton again one more time. But this is a manageable opponent. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. This is a more than manageable opponent for the Edmonton Oilers. Let's not forget the Ducks are without not one, but two of their biggest, most important, most ice time defensemen on this team. Hampus Lindholm, Cam Fowler, both out with injuries for this Anaheim team. That's massive. That's massive. You've got two of your best defensemen out. You got two of your best defensemen out for Anaheim. You've got a slow team against a fast Edmonton. That's the one thing Edmonton is. They're very, very fast. Anaheim's not. They can use that speed to their advantage. A depleted Anaheim blue line here. I mean, this Anaheim blue line's absolutely ripped apart by injuries. I mean, and we saw it. I mean, Vancouver, they never kept Vancouver out of that game. Vancouver kept coming back and coming back. I mean, you're down to Andy Welinski, Marcus Pettersson, Manson, Jacob Larson, Montour, and Josh Mahura are right now your defensemen here for the Anaheim Ducks with no Lindholm and Fowler in there. That's not a who's who of big-time defensemen. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's one of those things where Edmonton's got some chances to really exploit that depth-shy, short-handed Anaheim defense today with some of the speedy forwards they have. All I'm asking for Edmonton is Koskinen make the saves you made the other night, because we know again Gibson's that's the only position Anaheim's better than Edmonton in this game, and that's the goaltender, Gibson. And unfortunately, that's a big position to have an edge in, but I think Edmonton can get the job done. I certainly like the effort we saw from that team the other night and think it can carry over to this game. Calgary, Vegas. We've got Vegas -120, -125. Home favorites, the total 6 shaded to the under in this game. I'm looking at a situation here where Vegas, obviously a 3-2 win the other night in overtime against Arizona. Pretty impressive win considering they just lost to Calgary big the other night. It's a short turnaround revenge spot for the Golden Knights at home. Calgary just absolutely laid waste to the Golden Knights in Calgary just a few short days ago. You would think that has this team's attention without a doubt. But Calgary's red hot. I'm not betting Vegas simply because, hey, Calgary beat the piss out of them the other day. Vegas now back home is going to get their revenge. I'm not going to just automatically assume that, to be honest with you. Calgary's red hot, and their offense is just they found it the last few games. They're scoring 5 goals or more in each of their last 3 games. Everybody's chipping in on this team, all 4 lines. Offensively, they're playing good, and they finally made the right decision. Bill Peters and his coaching staff made the right decision. It was time to sit down the old veteran, Mike Smith. He wasn't playing well. It's a situation where I'm looking at Calgary playing too good to bet against them right now. I know Vegas is going to be into this game with guns blazing, looking at a situation where they're trying to come back from a bad loss to Calgary the other day. But I know Calgary's really turning it on, playing well. And David Riddick, going with him has made all the difference in the world. They're getting the saves they should have gotten before that they really weren't getting, to be honest with you, with Mike Smith in between the pipes. So I think you're looking at a game here where I know Vegas is going to be looking for big-time redemption, but I'm not going to be one of those guys expecting redemption necessarily from Vegas. Calgary is the way I would lean here. I'm going to stay off it because, you are worried. Vegas just got so badly humiliated by Calgary just a few days ago. It's a very big short turnaround revenge spot. Vegas has been better at home this year than on the road for the most part. But I'm not in any rush to bet against Calgary right now. Not even a little. They're scoring. David Riddick has given them the goaltending now that they should have got earlier in the season. He's been terrific in net for Calgary. Not a game I'm going to be looking to go against Calgary and playing too well at this point in time. Next up, we've got Toronto-Columbus. Columbus -120, total 6 across the board. Really not much on this game, to be honest, because this is another one of those games like Calgary-Vegas. They played Monday in Calgary. Now Toronto-Columbus played Monday in Toronto. Now they're back in Columbus. Toronto comes back, beats Columbus 4-2 on Monday. Toronto off a very, very poor game against one of the worst games they've played in a while. I guess they were due for one, due for a clunker, due for a bad road game. Well, it happened against Carolina. That first period, they were dominated. They were lucky to only be down 2-1. Made it interesting, but not enough to get the win against Carolina on Wednesday. They're off a loss. I think it's a bet on spot for Toronto. I always like Toronto off a loss. But you're talking about Columbus. They lost in Toronto Monday with a revenge situation for them. So I could make cases for both of these teams. Should be a good game like it was on Monday when they played in Toronto. Not much for me. It's a pass for me, but not for Andrew. He's got some thoughts. Leafs and Jackets in CBJ. Andrew, what do you like?
Yeah, it's really funny because I think all of us four ice guys, Ian, we're looking at that number and thinking, wow, why shouldn't we take the Leafs here? And all of a sudden, it's just one of those weird spots, and Carolina puts on a great performance at home, and they really stuck me to the Leafs. I mean, they had a great performance, and not only that, though, they slowed the pace of the Leafs down extraordinarily, and I think that's the thing that the Leafs have to learn to do, is not only just win those high-scoring games, they got to continue to be able to win those lower-scoring, more bump-and-grind type games because – I hate to be that guy, but we all know that's their problem in the playoffs. They struggle. They get hit. They get bodied. They get these tough plays that they can't handle. And I think that's what you have to realize. There's not as much open ice in the playoffs. It's not as much, free play kind of thing. So they have to realize they got to be able to win those games. And to me, when I come down to it, sometimes, Ian, you want to look at a revenge spot. Sometimes you want to look at a matchup where these two teams played recently, but I'm going to simplify things and say, hey, look, if I saw these two teams playing, didn't know at all what happened in their past couple games, you'd think Toronto. You'd think skill, talent-wise, goaltending even right now, I'd go with the Toronto Maple Leafs. But strictly coming off that last performance, I mean, first of all, 2 goals for the Leafs, it's unbearable. I mean, you don't really see that too often whatsoever with this team that pretty much started the season off averaging close to 4 goals per game. And I think coming into this one, their speed again will be the factor. I mean, they're going to go out there and play a game of shinny. I really wouldn't shock me if this game went over whatsoever. I'll use the shock factor of the Ian Cameron terminology, and you know what? It wouldn't shock me whatsoever. I mean, this game between Columbus and Toronto, Columbus has almost been circled more as an over team as well. They've been a team that can score. Averaging 3.4 goals per game. That's impressive. That's pretty much up there with Toronto, who's averaging just around 3.5 goals per game. So, look, these are two teams that can produce. The last game, I think it's embarrassing for Columbus. They let that lead slip away. And I will say they won't forget that probably, and it's something they have to really keep in mind. But if Columbus has any chance of keeping up with Toronto in this one, it's going to have to be a really, really fast-paced, higher-scoring matchup. Toronto won't like the way they played that game against Carolina, and that's just the way it is for me. So this matchup's easy for me. Toronto's the better team. They're off the loss. They put up 2 goals in their last performance. Mike Babcock's a great coach. He knows how to turn things around. He's also a good coach mentally. He'll calm his group down. They'll come in collectively and take care of things tonight.
All right, there we go. Toronto-Columbus. Interesting game. No doubt about Pittsburgh-Boston. Boston minus 110, total 6 shaded to the under. Is Pittsburgh back on track because they beat Dallas 5-1 the other night? I don't know. We'll see tonight. But they've definitely got Boston at their most vulnerable. Boston's just ravaged. I mean, ravaged on the blue line. It's not even fair what they have to go through. They've got to go through 5 of their starting 6 defensemen out of the lineup at the same time. Well, now actually 4, because I believe they're going to get one of them back. Looks like in the lineup, but Patrice Bergeron out. That's a problem as well for this Bruins team. The good news is, yes, Kevin Miller's the guy that's going to come back now for the Bruins. They at least get him back on this blue line, but still 4 of the 6 starting defensemen out. John Moore, Brandon Carlo, Big Z, Zdeno Chara, and Charlie McAvoy, all still out for the Bruins on their back end. And that's definitely a problem. And it's even more of a problem when you're facing a team like the Pittsburgh Penguins, who were sputtering offensively, but they had that breakout game 5-1 against Dallas. And when a team's just been scuffling and sputtering and playing so poorly like Pittsburgh has, and you win a game, maybe it's a chance to light the spark, light at the end of the tunnel, light switch gets flipped on, and maybe you can reel off another couple wins here. I'm going to take Pittsburgh here. Maybe they've gone through their tough times. Obviously, you've still got to worry about the fact we're looking at situation with either DeSmith or Murray in net, who have struggled for this team. Both of these guys have struggled. DeSmith's actually been a little bit better, in my opinion, than Murray. Murray's really had a rough season. I mean, his 4 goals against, 8 sub 900 save percentage. It's really been a tough season for Matt Murray. So I would think that Mike Sullivan's actually going to stick here with Casey DeSmith, especially since he got that victory the other night against Dallas. So I'm going to take Pittsburgh here, minus 110. The total 6. I definitely lean over the total here because Pittsburgh's been an over team a lot. Boston, not so much. That's the concern, but lean over. It's definitely a weaker opinion for me than the Pittsburgh side. I like the Pittsburgh side more, minus 110. Again, Boston at home. but Boston dealing with too many injuries right now. Maybe Pittsburgh can take advantage of that in this game. We've got Chicago, Tampa Bay next game on the schedule. Tampa Bay minus 200, total 6 across the board. Tampa Bay just lays absolute waste to Florida the other night, hangs a 7 spot against the Florida Panthers on Wednesday night. Team playing good offensively. Louis Domingue actually playing somewhat decent in goal. The Philadelphia game was the team in front of him was terrible in terms defensively, in terms of clearing the puck out. I mean, he gave up 5 goals in that game, but a lot of it was the players in front of him not doing their job that well. He played much better, I thought, in the game against Florida. The team defensively played better against Florida. And Chicago, to me, is just struggling right now, big time. We know that. It's been a real tough go. This is one team where the coaching change really hasn't done a whole lot to spark this group. Chicago continues to really find ways to lose more than win. Not an underdog I'll be looking at here with Chicago. Tampa Bay playing good, scoring some goals right now. Total is 6. Tampa could get to this total all by themselves. What will Chicago do is the question. I mean, for them, offense has been hard to come by. They've played a lot of unders lately, Chicago as well. So a lot of push and pull going on with the total here for me in this game. Could go over, could stay under. So, and the total is 6. So again, if you think a game only could go over when it's 6 instead of 5.5, it's probably a situation where I'm not crazy about it. I don't trust the under though, and I know we're going to get to best bets, and Alex B. Smith sent a best bet on this game, which we'll mention at the end of the show. But Tampa Bay could easily, with the way they're going and generating shots, generating chances, definitely come close to this total by themselves. And it's not like Chicago gave up a bunch of goals the other night to Washington. So that's tricky. It's really tricky, the total here, whether to go over or under. So it's a game I'll pass on, but obviously Chicago struggling, and it's not going to get much easier for them against Tampa Bay here tonight. Florida, Carolina next up. Carolina minus 135, minus 140, even minus 150 starting to show up. The total 6. They had a players only meeting after a loss to Columbus on Saturday. Rod Brind'Amour sort of read them the riot act for the first time this season, and they've responded with 2 pretty good wins. They beat New Jersey 2-1 on Sunday, beat Toronto on Wednesday night. That's 2 wins since that players only meeting and since Brind'Amour criticized them. So Carolina's got something going right now, and they got something going with Curtis McElhinney in net. He got the start in both of those games, and he was very good. And I think they're going to run with him now because Mrazek just is, first of all, he's injured and he's not good. Second of all, Scott Darling is back and he's not good. So that's the issue with the goaltending here for Carolina. You might as well keep Curtis McElhinney in there because at least he's given you a chance, and he's played decently so far and led Carolina to back-to-back wins. Florida, I don't know what's happened to Luongo all of a sudden. Luongo couldn't be beaten. You couldn't. It's like he had steel shiny armor on his as his goaltending equipment. You couldn't find ways to beat the guy. But all of a sudden, he's letting in 5 goals, 6 goals, 7 the other night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So it's been a struggle. Even the game they won against Ottawa, they gave up 5 goals, I believe, in that game. So it's really come apart for Florida defensively the last couple of games. You would think they got to try to tighten things up here in this game. Has me thinking under, actually, believe it or not. McElhinney's been good. It's not like Carolina's a team that lights it up offensively. Florida, you did play Ottawa, can score a lot of goals. You did play Tampa Bay, can score a lot of goals. Can Carolina score goals the way those 2 teams have? Not if you look at the numbers. Ottawa and Tampa Bay, 2 of the top 5 goal-scoring teams in the NHL this season. That's not Carolina. So I think Florida's got at least a manageable matchup, a chance to at least right the ship a little bit defensively, plug the dike, as I like to say, in terms of keeping it out of the back of their net. So I'm going to go under 6 here in this game, Florida and Carolina. And if McElhinney is in net, and I think he will be, he's been solid. He really has been for the Carolina Hurricanes. So this is one under that I kind of like here tonight. Florida taking on Carolina. We've got a lot of games with no goalie confirmations, guys. I'll tell you what we've got confirmed. We've got Lundqvist confirmed for the Rangers, Koskinen confirmed for the Oilers, Antti Niemi confirmed for the Montreal Canadiens this afternoon. And that's pretty much it for the most part. I go down, and Craig Anderson's confirmed for Ottawa, which we kind of expect because he gets pretty much every start for them. So that's about it in terms of goaltending confirmation. So make sure you keep your eyes out for that throughout the day. It's a very tricky day. A lot of games on teams on back-to-back. There's a lot of teams that are playing today that are also playing tomorrow, so they're likely going to split the assignments with their two goalies for these two games. So just very important to keep tabs on who's in the pipes for all of these teams, not only today, but tomorrow as well. Next up, we've got Nashville, St. Louis. Nashville minus 125, road favorite, total 5.5 shade to the under. I took St. Louis and over the other night against Nashville, lost both. St. Louis just they looked like they were stuck in mud, quicksand, whatever you want to call it again. Good effort, but not enough off. Like they just the quality of chances wasn't there really for St. Louis. Even in Craig Berube's first game behind the bench after firing Mike Yeo. So I was thinking if St. Louis can show me something pretty impressive in Nashville, a great team on the road, and they maybe win that game, ride them. Well, they lost. They didn't really look all that impressive, so I'm off St. Louis now. In this game, I'm not going to be looking to get back on them here. We'll see. Maybe back home against Nashville. Maybe Nashville's a little disinterested. We already beat St. Louis the other night, but that's not something I want to bank on from a betting perspective. So it's a game I'm not involved in, side or total, but this is on Andrew's card, Preds and Blues. Andrew, what do you like?
Well, I'm glad somebody else was on that over too, Ian, because man, that was tough. I mean, we get 4 goals from Nashville. We get a great performance from them. I mean, I would kind of regret just not putting the money on Nashville to succeed, because this is a team that, in my opinion, deserves the most shit to come towards them. This St. Louis Blues team. I mean, forget Edmonton in my eyes, Ian. Forget Chicago. Forget even Detroit's on the come up now. Forget all these other teams. This St. Is team is absolutely despicable. It's completely garbage. It's rough to see the lineup, the talent that they have. I mean, this is a perfect example. I mean, I hate to call people out. You look at Ryan O'Reilly, comes over as a free agent. He's on the first line. What has he done consistently for this St. Louis Blues team? Now, all of a sudden, he's in the spotlight. He's on the first line center. He is the man. He's the guy. And he can't do anything for this team to be a leader and to step up and to score, have any goal production whatsoever. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Connor McDavid, but you look at McDavid, at least that top line center, at least when his team's struggling, he's still producing and getting shots. You look at Tarasenko, you look at Shen, you look at Fabry, you look at these guys and you wonder where the hell they've been. Where are they hiding? What are they waiting for? I mean, 1 goal is awful. This Nashville defense, they pinch up a lot. They're not a stay-at-home defensive. They don't park the bus, as they say in soccer. They're not hard to get in behind. I mean, it's despicable that this team, especially after a coaching change, is going to go in and put up that kind of performance against Nashville. It's rough to see. I mean, right now, Ian, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I look at this 2.5 team total. I'm thinking, what do I do with this for St. Louis? I'm thinking, is there a possibility they can come out and do something for me? Because this team is rough. And you know what? It's about time people start taking the blame off Jake Allen and off the goaltending for the St. Louis team, and start to realize that this team that's supposed to have Alex Pietrangelo and Edmondson and these guys, Colton Parayko, these guys are good. I mean, they're supposed to be solid defenders, and it's just rough to see. Nashville's a good team, but I don't think that should have been the beatdown that it was. In summary, Ian, I'm taking a shot here. First period, under 1.5 between these two teams. I mean, until St. Louis can give me anything, I'm going to have to expect a lower scoring game with them. Unless both teams come out and absolutely explode offensively, you can get around minus 110, even money here. Give me the first period under 1.5. Give me a slow start. I hope you can understand. I think it's embarrassing for the St. Louis team. If I can get my point across, that's all I really wanted to do there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to open it up. They did want to play faster. I think they did in spurts against Nashville, but it didn't result in any goals, and that's the problem. You can play faster. If you don't put the puck in the net, doesn't matter. The game's still going to stay under, and that's what happened. So it could be the same thing again. Maybe they play faster, but if eventually you got to put the puck in the net, they didn't do it. We'll see if they can do it here, but Andrew liking the under in the first period. Ottawa, Dallas, we've got Dallas minus 190, 6.5. The total shaded to the under. What did I say the other night when we talked about Ottawa, Minnesota? You get well offensively against the Ottawa Senators. That's just what you do. When you're struggling to score goals, when you're clutching your stick, you're having a hard time finding the back of the net, you face the Ottawa Senators and all is well again. And Minnesota found that out the other night. They were struggling to score goals, but we still hung 6 goals, well, 5 goals really, but plus 1 empty netter, but 5 goals against Ottawa. the other night in a victory. Here's Dallas, the same situation as Minnesota the other night. They're struggling to find the back of the net. Their offense is dried up. 1 goal against the Rangers, 1 goal against Pittsburgh. They're talking about a bad start in the first period the other night. We've got to get our offense going. Trust me, Jim Montgomery, who was quoted as saying that, you'll get your offense going tonight. Trust me. Just look who you're playing. You'll get it going, my friend. Yeah, give me the over again. I mean, it's really 6. Ottawa goals are averaging 7.9 goals per game this year. Nearly 8 total goals per game are what Ottawa Senator games are averaging this season. 6.5 still too damn low. Over the total for me. Andrew, what do you like in this game?
I mean, it comes down to it like this. You can't justify the fact that you and I are just loving these overs, but I mean, there's good reason. I mean, you can come on this show and watch it. Ian and I talk about over Ottawa team total, etc. But there's reason behind it, and I think Ian, you just touched on it. But the fact is they're a team that's more talented than people think. They actually have some depth. They've got some goal scorers, we know, but their defense, that's a worry, man. I mean, oh my God, that game that I saw last week in person, that's how you really, really knew. And sometimes it takes to actually watch a game in person, front and center, to see this team give up some really rough goals. But I also got to see their talent, man. I got to see their talent. I realized that if they buckled down defensively and, they gave Craig Anderson a chance, because let's face it, I don't know about you, Ian, but I still think Craig Anderson's like an absolute stunner of a goaltender. I think he's a great goaltender, and I think that stat that you just mentioned doesn't really reflect his performance, if that makes any sense. I think that he's playing a lot better than you'd think based off the goals that they're allowing. And I think looking at an Ottawa team total in this one would be a good play as well. I mean, you can get the -116 for over 2.5 goals at Pinnacle. I mean, that's a great bet in my eyes. I think this one, if it's going to be a higher scoring game for both factors, we can get over 2.5 goals for Ottawa. So, I wouldn't really lay the juice whatsoever with Dallas. I got people in the chat asking, would you lay this price with Dallas, the Stars? What do you think? Why force that pick when you see how many goals the Sens are putting up on a nightly basis? I'm not trying to talk anybody off anything, but, just look at some team totals, look at some prop bets or period bets. And, I didn't used to be that kind of better, Ian, but now I kind of break things down. And why would you even risk that -170 number or whatever you're getting with the Stars? Doesn't make any sense to me. Look at the over 2.5 goals for the Ottawa Senators tonight.
There's no doubt I would take Ottawa plus price before I take Dallas. They are feisty. They can score. They can really score, Ottawa. The problem is they can't keep anything out of their net. That's been their issue. I would take a shot with Ottawa before laying the price with Dallas, although it does smell like a bounce back, focused, intense spot for Dallas back home after a rough end of their road trip. So that would be my concern. They have been very good at home, Dallas, this year. Very good home team. But I would still take Ottawa before Dallas. But I like the over. That's going to be my bet in this game. You just keep riding it at this point. 8-1 to the over. Now for Ottawa on the road. What, at 15-4 now to the over on the season? For the full season, 15 overs, 4 unders for Ottawa. How about that? That is the #1 over team in hockey. Keeps on chugging for the Ottawa Senators. Colorado, Arizona. Colorado -115 on the road, 5.5 the total. Interesting game. Colorado pummeled a bad LA team the other night. Very impressive, dominant win for them. Now facing Arizona. Overtime loss the other night against Vegas. Again, with Arizona, I'm staying off this team completely until they get Antti Raanta back. Not that Kemper's been terrible. Kemper's been okay, actually, the last few games, but I don't trust him. Every time I bet on a game with Kemper or a team with Kemper in net, usually find ways to lose as opposed to win. Should be a good game, though. I mean, you got Colorado playing good on this road trip. Arizona off a tough loss in overtime. Could make good cases for either side. Slightly in Colorado, but going to stay off that game. We wrap it up with Vancouver, San Jose. San Jose -290. 6 shaded to the under. The total, Vancouver, boy, the losses keep mounting for this team. They've had to deal with a ton of injuries lately, especially on defense. Goaltending continues to struggle. Markstrom and Nilsson, I mean, I've seen enough of these guys that neither one can play or be consistent in between the pipes. San Jose off that loss to Edmonton the other night. I think they come out strong. This could be a good first period over here in this game, Vancouver, San Jose, just because you get San Jose off the tough loss to Edmonton. I think they have been a good first period over team, San Jose, this season, especially at home. Not so much the full game over, but first period over, I could see it, especially with San Jose off that tough loss to Edmonton. We get goals early in this game. Again, I don't do a ton of first periods compared to full games, but first period stood out here that we may see an over 1.5. San Jose could get maybe a 2-0 lead, even 1-1, but 2-0 San Jose even, getting out to a fast start, much like they did the other night against Edmonton, even though they lost. Could see that definitely. So over first period maybe in that game, Canucks and Sharks. All right, it's time to wrap it up. We're out of time. Best bets to wrap up this show. I'll give you what Jimmy sent me. Jimmy likes Pittsburgh as his best bet. See, that tells you he's no homer. He follows the Bruins, covers them. He's from Boston. He likes Pittsburgh. That's his best bet. I agree with it. I already told you I like Pittsburgh in that game as well. And he loves the over in the Montreal-Buffalo game, over 6. And again, that game totals wise could go either way for me. But yeah, Buffalo's scoring. So he's going to think that continues there, over 6 for him. Alex's best bet is Chicago-Tampa Bay under 6 in the Bolts and Blackhawks game. Yeah, I mean, Chicago, I don't trust them to score. I mean, Tampa could be like the Ranger game the other night. I could see it. Could it be 5-0, 5-1 Tampa Bay? Yeah, it could be. It was Chicago not finding the back of the net. Yeah, very possible. So that's Alex's best bet, Chicago-Tampa under 6. Andrew, let's get to you. Best bet for this Friday card.
Yeah, it's always fun picking out a best bet and figuring out a spot here to go with. And I think that this one I've looked at is kind of an evening game here. I think 5 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to fade the Anaheim Ducks. And there's a team I love to fade, but also a team that I'm looking to kind of bet on more so these days can be the Edmonton Oilers. We're getting a -110 price. And I think that realistically, based off the performances we've seen from both these two teams, that price is relatively accurate. But I guarantee you, moving on the next month and a half of hockey, next time these two teams face, that will not be what the odds are. Edmonton will be a lot heavier favorites. Edmonton will wake up. They're a lot better of a team than what they've been playing like. They got to find that depth scoring still. They got to play together as a unit. They got to find that chemistry, and I think they will. I think that coaching change has been great. I was very, very impressed when I watched that interview with Ken Hitchcock, and it meant a lot to me. Some things stick out to you, and that really did stick out to me. So Edmonton on the money line around -110. Great numbers here, and just quickly, Ian and I both, all of us really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. I know there's college football, NFL, NBA, so much other stuff going on right now. And we really appreciate all of you guys getting up with us in the morning, starting your day, and watching us talk some hockey. So a lot of games today. And, we got about 103, 105 people in here. Leave a like, please. And, I'm really happy to have you guys joining us talking some hockey. So appreciate all of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely great. We appreciate everybody watching. I mean, definitely. It's been it's great doing this show. We love doing it. We appreciate everybody that supports it, everybody that watches it. Thank you for doing that. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg is where I'm going to go for best bet. Winnipeg +108, Heritage Sports. I like the better team. They're off a bad loss to Calgary. They didn't start out well at all in that game. They're 6-2 off a loss this season. Let's go Winnipeg Jets +108 against Minnesota. My best bet for this Friday card. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Again, we'll be back at our normal day and time, Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow with our next edition of the NHL Ice Guys, a smaller Saturday slate, but a good one nonetheless. We'll break it all down for you again right here on the Ice Guys. For Andrew McGinnis, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Have a good Friday and good luck today on the ice, and we'll see you again tomorrow with our next edition of the Ice Guys.